Welcome back to the podcast. And for part two of this first week, I'm going to introduce Xingyiquan as a martial art. What is Xingyiquan? What is the basic curriculum? And also a first look at the fighting strategies, specific fighting strategies of Xingyiquan. Now, this is a huge topic. Xingyiquan has many different fighting strategies, ways of developing fighting skill. But in this first part, let's look at the basic curriculum. So what is Xingyiquan? Xingyiquan is a martial arts system from northern China, and it's developed over several hundred years. So it's an old system. Some people even credit its founding with Yue Fei, who was a general around 1,000 years ago. So that's very old. Some people say that Yue Fei developed Xingyiquan and Eagle Claw Gong Fu, which both exist still. And other people credit the founding of Xingyiquan to about more recent times, about 300 years ago. Basically, one clan in North China called the Dai family, Dai clan, taught a man called Li Luoneng. And Li Luoneng was the person who developed what we mostly see now as Xingyiquan. There are many branches, as with all martial arts. It's developed over the centuries to form different schools and sects and branches. But basically, Xingyiquan is, we know now, a highly effective fighting system. It's proven itself as the chosen system of many bodyguards, caravan guards, fighters, bounty hunters in North China during the late Qing era and the early Republican era. There are still many practical, good, skillful Xingyiquan fighters around, so it has a good reputation. And as a martial arts system, it gives you the ability to protect yourself, to protect other people from random violent attack, as any good martial art should do. It has a very specific way of training based on principles and theories. So it's the core of Xingyiquan is based on a set of theories called the Six Harmony theory, or the Six Harmony principles. And the basic training method is called Santi, which means three bodies or three levels or three battles posture. And it's looks like a static posture, but in fact, it's not static. There's a lot going on, but we're going to look at this in a later episode. But to start with, to carry on with what Xingyiquan is, it's not just a system of techniques, but it's a path of developing a warrior. So a method, a system, a cultivation practice that enables the practitioner to walk through life as a warrior or a true man, somebody who can face these challenges of the three battlefields and can deal courageously, wisely with violence, with the problems of health, longevity, and also with death and dying. Think about these bodyguards, these soldiers. Xingyiquan was used a lot by the military. It's based on the spear and also has very well developed saber fighting system. So it was used a lot by the military. But think about these people, these professional people who use the art to deal with violence on a professional basis. So, as I said before in the first podcast, they would have to have thought about the problem of death and dying. It's not just we're going to win every single battle, because there's always a chance that you will die, and today is the day perhaps that it will happen. So they had to think about these questions. So it's a martial arts system that will deal with the three battlefields. It also has a very well developed system of Health maintenance, some people would call it Qigong, Neigong, health exercises. Different branches of Xingyiquan were developed by men who were also very skilled traditional doctors, and they developed their own sets of Neigong specifically to keep the practitioner healthy, robust, full of internal energy, to develop the internal power, both for fighting skill and for just health maintenance as well. If we look at the system in very broad terms, the process of developing fighting skill in Xingyiquan is, or could be, outlined as follows. First, the development of perfect structure. Second, understanding strategy. Third, developing the ability to change. And fourth, returning to formlessness. Okay, so these four levels or four progressive stages are, we could talk about them for weeks. They're very deep, very involved. So here I'm just giving a basic outline, but we will come back to each of these points: developing perfect structure, understanding strategy, developing the ability to change, and returning to formlessness. So I will return to these in the coming weeks. Probably for the next few weeks, at least one episode each week will be devoted to Xingyiquan, so we can gradually work through the different details. Okay, the core curriculum that trains the the qualities I just mentioned is something along the lines of, first of all, you practice Santi. So 3 bodies posture, some people call standing meditation posture. And in its basic form, you're putting 70% of weight on the back. Some people use 60% of weight on the back. But it's a way of developing principles and qualities in you, not just a technique. It's not just a guard stance per se. It's a way of developing perfect structure, which was the first of the 4 stages that we're seeking that I just mentioned. So through this standing meditation posture, all of the principles and qualities of the system will be fused into you, into your body, your energy, your breathing, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and so on. So it's an analogy would be making a high quality sword, a samurai sword, or a ancient Chinese sword, where you would heat the metal to very high temperature. You would beat and fold the metal repeatedly, then you would cool it down, and you'd repeat this process many, many, many times, hundreds of times, thousands of times, to produce a sword of great integrity and strength and power and so on. So Santi is something like that. It's a seemingly simple exercise. It looks very simple. You just learn it, and then you can stand in it. Of course, it needs correction about the details, but it's essentially a simple looking standing posture. But then over the months, over the years, you start to understand that it's not so simple. There are many, many, many principles, guidelines to follow, and these are all outlined in the classics. Some of them are sets of 3 that you have. Some are just single principles that you put into it. Some are sets of 6, many different principles. And what we're doing when we put these principles into the Santi is we're learning how to guide, how to control the body by using the mind. And this mostly rests in the beginning on the Lihe, the 6 harmonies theory that helps us to develop this perfect structure, this integration of mind and body, and also, very importantly, the development of 6 direction force. And in Xingyiquan, this six-direction force, or we could say spherical force, is critically important because it's a system that develops close range, short range power. And when I say short range, I mean millimeter power, not 3 centimeters, or a 1 inch punch. No, I mean from you put your hands on somebody and you can issue enough power to severely damage the inside of their body and to stop the fight instantly, stop any kind of threat. Sounds very useful for fighting, but it takes a lot of practice. So how do we develop this short-range power? So this is what Xingyiquan is teaching the student, how to develop the short-range power. Power is one thing, then of course you need all the other aspects that I'm going to explain. So the curriculum begins with Santi. Santi looks like a static stance, but as I mentioned just now, there's a lot of motion happening inside. On a very simple level, you're moving on 3 planes. You have forward and back motion, you have left and right or in and out motion, expanding and contracting to the sides, and you have up and down. And there are specific exercises in Santi for doing all 3 of those directions at the same time. So you can go up and down, in and out, forward and back at the same time. Although somebody looking from the outside wouldn't necessarily see much happening. But all of this is to avoid the problem called dead standing. Means you're just standing, maybe you're making your legs a bit stronger, a bit tired, you feel like you've had a bit of a workout of your hips, but it's dead standing. We need to make the practice alive by infusing it with these Liu He, these 6 harmonies theory, and also something called the 6 characteristics, which is really core, important set of principles for training Xingyiquan as a whole, and definitely Santi. But we will leave this until next week because the 6 characteristics is a very big topic. So just remember, next week we will look at 6 characteristics. Through Santi, we discover a lot about motion in stillness. And again, on a simple level, because there's many ways of explaining it, there are 4 levels of practicing Santi. This is how I like to explain it to beginners. And they progress from the first level to the next, to the third, to the fourth, and so on. So the first level, we could say, is the Xing. It's the shape, the form. And what we want to have in terms of Xing is something robust, unbreakable, grounded, and full of the 6-direction force, and infused with the 6 characteristics that we're going to look at next week. So this is the first level. It's just the level of Xing. It's a level of making, the potter making the teapot from the clay, making a very good shape. Okay, then the second level is the level of Jing. And Jing is the essence, which basically gives you vitality. So the raw essence and vitality that you need to practice well. So you're starting to put something into the teapot. It's the the fine quality tea that can fill up the teapot. If the teapot is of good substance, it's got no holes, it's robust, and so on. Okay, the third level of practicing Santi is called the level of Qi. This Qi is the energy, the breath, and at this level you start to get strength, what we call strength in Xingyiquan. It means you're combining now the strength of the shape with the essence, the vitality, the vital essence, which is something subtle but real, because if you don't have it, you'll feel depleted. You feel like you can't practice. So you have the Xing, the Jing, and then the Qi, the energy and the breath. And this will start to now make you feel very strong. And the fourth level of practicing Santi is the level of Shin, the spirit. And as the classic says, the spirit enables you to soar, enables you to fly, enables you to see things from a spiritual perspective, develops your wisdom. So all of these levels are trained progressively in this seemingly simple looking, unmoving posture. The Xing, the Jing, the Qi, the Shen, the shape, the essence, the energy, and the spirit. Okay, so these are, you can start to see how profound Santi is. It's not just make your hand a bit more forward, sit down a bit lower, put your head like this. It's not that type of, it's not limited to that type of practice, although that is important. What you do with your body, that's the first stage. That's the level of Xing, the shape. Then you have to add the essence. Then you have to add the energy. Then you have to add spirit. Okay, so already you have a very detailed, long, progressive, deep training in Santi. Okay, after you can get a fairly good level of Santi, even at the level of the Xing, the shape, the next part of the curriculum in Xingyiquan is five fists. So the Wuxing, the five fists. The five fists, Piquan, Bangquan, Zhuanquan, Paoquan, Hongquan. So basically these are five movements, five principles, five skills, five qualities related to five organs, five different mindsets. Some people call them five techniques, but they're movements from which come hundreds, thousands of techniques. In terms of technical movement, the whole Xingyiquan system is based upon the five fists. Piquan is splitting fist, and it's related to the element of metal and the organ of the lungs. So Xingyiquan, Piquan is the first moving practice, and it's said in the classics and proven, because people have practiced this for generations, that Piquan will cure all your diseases of the lungs and all basic problems caused by weak qi. So if you practice Piquan properly, with the correct form, the correct manner, then you can balance out your lung qi and basically improve your vitality, improve your health. So normally Piquan and Bangquan are practiced for the first 3 years before the other fists, traditionally, in the old times. So nowadays people tend to teach the other 3 fists a bit quicker. Second one, Bangquan. Bangquan is crushing fist, and it's related to the liver organ and the element of wood. So the energy, whereas Piquan was splitting, made your mind very sharp, solid. Bangquan is makes your mindset very flexible and elastic, and of course it's very good for the liver organ. Bear in mind that in Chinese medicine, and practically speaking, you can feel this, all the organs, the major organs, come in pairs when you talk about yin and yang organs. So for example, lung organ is related to large intestine organ. Liver organ is related to gallbladder organ. So you're not just training one organ, you're actually, by training one, you are actually developing the whole of that system, which is related to the other, the yin organ to the yang organ. Okay, again, this is another very big topic that we will get into at a later date, because we are going to go off at a tangent from the curriculum, but we will examine this for sure very soon. And so Bang Chuan is crushing fist, Juan Chuan is drilling fist related to the kidneys and the element of water. Pao Chuan is the cannon fist, which is related to the heart, to the element of fire. And Hung Chuan is the crossing fist, related to the earth, the stomach, earth element, stomach organ, stomach and spleen organ. And so each of these fists will harmonize a certain organ system, and most importantly for fighting, it will develop a certain mindset. So you have 5 very different ways of using your mind. Some are very sharp, solid, some are very flexible and fluid. But this stage of practice, it trains your mind to be very clear, very strong, very focused, very powerful. Okay, so this is Xingyiquan. Xing is the shape, Yi is the mind or the intention, Quan is the martial art. Okay, then the next part of the curriculum is footwork. You know, you've developed a very good static route in Santi and learned how to take the principles of Santi and develop them into 5 skills, which are the wuxing, the 5 elements, Pi, Bang, Zhuan, Pao, Hung. But now you need to train variations of footwork, how to move through space using various stepping patterns. So this includes linear, zigzag stepping, circular stepping, turning stepping, jumping, even some branches of Xingyiquan will teach tumbling, and how to get up, fall down and get up extremely fast. Okay, then there are various Neigong methods in the curriculum. So these train internal power using certain principles of breathing. Very important to mention, although this is a separate topic for another episode, which I will talk about because it's very important. We never force the breath in Xingyiquan. The breath is helped, encouraged to be natural, the most natural way of breathing, through the correct use of the body. So the body is the gateway to correct breathing. Rather than trying to force a certain rhythm or pattern, we make the body method very clear, so that the breath will have a good route to follow. If your posture is bad, your breathing will be shallow and stuck. So if your posture is open, then your breathing will be natural and clear and smooth. Okay, we will come back to this topic because it's very important about contrived or uncontrived practices of breathing and of many other things. Okay, then after Neigong practices, we also have a section called 12 animal practice. Once again, this is a very big topic. There are 12 animal sets. Some are very short, they only have 2 movements. Some are a little bit longer with 6 or 7 movements. But the aim at this stage is to hugely increase your vocabulary of body movement, fighting strategies, fighting techniques, and they basically expand upon the 5 elements, 5 fists, to produce hundreds or thousands of different techniques. Even though the forms themselves are not long, but the possibilities are huge. Then another part of the curriculum, Yijingjing, transformation of the connective tissue, the tissue structure, the bones of the body, using an ancient practice called Yijingjing, sinew changing classic or tendon changing classic, which was taught to the monks in the famous Shaolin temple, more than 1,000 years ago by the great Zen master Bodhidharma or Damo. And this practice is basically the root of all traditional martial art in Asia. It was so influential, so effective, so powerful. But it's definitely woven into the Xingyiquan and Baguoquan forms and practices. It's the base of what we now call internal martial arts. And what it does, it fuses the connective tissue of the body, all of the connective tissue, the skeleton, to make an immensely powerful web rather than just using isolated power of muscle. But it's a way of transforming the body. And then there's also bone marrow washing. This is also based on the teachings of Bodhidharma. And what this does, bone marrow washing cleanses or cleans out the deepest toxins, deepest desires from the human being's body and mind. Okay, so we have a lot of topics here that we need to come back to unravel and explain. And, you know, at later episodes, I'm going to explain these in detail. So, okay, now we've looked a little bit at the curriculum. Each part can be expanded, and it will be, but let's look now at a few fighting strategies. How do we develop fighting skill in Xingyiquan is another subject. You know, what is the step-by-step progressive method of developing fighting skill, where there are many exercises, partner exercises, weapon training, concepts that we use. So this will take up many episodes, so we will look at this in the future. But now I want to introduce a couple of fighting strategies. So the first one is that Xingyiquan, because it's coming from military strategy in large part, it's based on military strategy. It looks on the practitioner's body as a castle or a city. You could look on your head, your body as a capital city, and your arms as the territory, and your hands as the gates. So this is one approach that we have. Walls. We say that hands can be walls or gates of the castle, or the walls protecting a whole country. So the image is very much a military protection image. So a lot of the fighting strategies, the basic fighting strategies, use these kind of images of castles and territory and walls and so on. Okay. So I'll explain a few simple strategies. The first one is to plunder. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that using your Xingyiquan skills, you attack to get inside the enemy's domain with a preemptive strike. So it's very much like an aggressive army suddenly, you know, maybe in the middle of the night or early in the morning, they launch a surprise attack and they go directly into, cross the border and into the enemy's domain, and even better, plunder their castle. So the enemy has a huge castle in the capital city. You go straight into, through the defenses before the enemy has time to think. You attack. Plunder, as a classic says, plunder the enemy's heart and mind. And if you can defeat his will, if you can smash his will and confuse his mind, that's the moment then to attack the core, to attack the emperor's throne, so to speak. So have this image, the enemy, the person in front of you is, their body's a castle, their hands are the city gates, and without fear and without hesitation, the moment that you feel there's an opening, you can plunder, meaning you have to step in very, very close, very fast to his the core, into his center. That's why we need short power, because by going in very close, we have to be able to generate. It's no good You get very close, you're in hugging distance, and then what can you do except for wrap your arms around the person and squeeze? No, we want to be able to go extremely close and hit with what we call the 7 stars: the foot, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, elbow, hand, head, using explosive short power. So as I said, short means millimeter power. Okay, so if you can plunder the enemy's castle, so a lot of techniques in Xingyiquan, you go extremely fast, aggressively, violently, ferociously, cut through their defense, crash through the defense, smash through their arms, and penetrate into their core, hitting on the way in. The step is a kick, your foot landing, beyond their front leg, deep into their stance, uprooting them as you go. It's exactly like plundering the castle. Okay, very aggressive, very violent, very ferocious. But there's a corresponding principle to this, which is the principle of defend. And it says you must defend yourself from the enemy, both inside and outside. So, first of all, you must defend your spirit from being overwhelmed. So in the same way that you want to penetrate, smash, destroy somebody else's mind, somebody else's resolve, you have to protect your own spirit, your own mind from being overwhelmed. Okay, so this has 2 sides. Not only you can attack the enemy is going to be trying to attack you, to overcome you, to, as the modern parlance, psych you out, to destroy your will to fight, all of these things. And we have to, as Xingyiquan practitioners, defend our spirit from being overwhelmed. Okay, that's the first principle of defense. Don't let anything to crush your spirit, your determination, your courage. The second principle of defense is that you must defend yourself in fighting, meaning that you treat defense and attack in the same breath. We don't think of defend, attack. We don't think attack without defense. They are both joined together. And during a fight, don't stick to rules. Don't have any rules. Don't have any preconceived ideas of what is possible, what's impossible. Anything's possible and anything goes. You only have to fight according to the situation. You change according to the moment by moment occurrence. Their attack, your attack. You've no idea what's going to happen. Only in the present moment will it be clear. And then don't stick to rules. Don't have any idea of rules. Don't have any idea of limitations. And as the classics say, the best skill is the boxing of no boxing. The mind without mind. No mind is the best mind. Once again, this is, if you remember, the 4th stage we talk about, return to formlessness. So this is connected with that. In Xingyiquan, we call it no shape, no shadow. No shape, no shadow. So this is really important principle that we're going to look at in depth later on. Okay, another strategy of fighting in Xingyiquan is guard your domain. So this is also connected. It's saying that you are a castle, your domain is to the extent of your hands, and keep your structure upright to resist the enemy's attack. So this is saying, again, you need a robust structure, and you need to stay upright through your great route that you've developed through all your training. You shouldn't put your attention only on attacking, but also equally on making sure the enemy cannot attack you. So it's just as I said before, is the attack is contained in the defense contains the attack. Actually, all of the movements, Pi Bang Juan, Pao Hung, we can't say they're just attacks or just defense. They are totally fused together. Any movement has both attack and defense. and you need to make sure you guard your domain. So anytime that you attack, make sure he cannot attack you. How can you resist an enemy's attack? Or what is a good strategy? Wait for him to move. As soon as he moves, you instantly move first. You go first. You go faster. The moment he tries to attack, you're already attacking him. If you wait more than a moment, you'll be overwhelmed. So Xingyiquan wants to attack violently, aggressively, ferociously. So this brings up another topic, is if you're going to have this kind of attack, so violently attack somebody, you have to be totally sure that it's justified and that, you are attacking